Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Mimi at Hidden Mysteries, and I'm with my co-host, Reverend Maria DeAndrea, and this is December 3rd, 2014, and as usual, we're coming to you from New York. And if you've ever wondered whether there was more to this world than what we see, then you're in the right place, because on each show, Reverend Maria and I will explore an array of unusual topics and maybe endeavor to seek out answers to perhaps two mysterious concepts and age-old legends. And so, hi, Maria. How you doing?
Fine. I'm all excited. I love when we give information to people that they can actually use.
You never know. You never know. They can come across this stuff, you know. You never know.
Right.
Just so anybody would like to get in touch with Reverend Maria, she's an internationally known psychic from Budapest, Hungary, and a European shaman. And she's also a published author of many, many, many books, a spiritual life coach, metaphysical practitioner, and public speaker. Go to our website at mariadeandrea.com, or you can use the links below our show's description here on Blog Talk to go to Maria's website and to look at the books she has authored and has co-authored as well, because we're going to be talking about two of them tonight as well. I have personally researched topics on the paranormal spirituality for many years and produced a local cable show for over 14 years. And so this is like a passion of mine, this topic of the metaphysical, the spiritual, the paranormal. So we are always so happy to be able to talk about these things. And if you'd like to check out more information or more things that we have in regards to videos and articles and anything else, and or if you missed any of our other Hidden Mystery shows, you can also get me or get us on mquestmedia.com. And you can look at our Soul Quest newsletter and leave comments or questions on the blog. And also you can also call Maria at 631-559-1248 after the show. And if anybody would like to call in and speak with us, it's 929-477-1080. Before we begin tonight, I understand, Maria, that you do have a couple of books out right now that you've co-authored or have written a chapter in. One is called A Miracle a Minute, and the second is Angel Spells. Would you like to explain briefly what they're about?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, you can find all the books on Amazon, Kindle, Nook, so they're all over. But I like A Miracle a Minute because basically the way we look at it is somewhere in the world, someone experiences a miracle every minute. People don't realize that. They always look at it as a vague concept, but it really isn't. It's something that everybody experiences. So in this book, I put a chapter basically on prayer, and there are ways to ramp that up, for lack of a better word. So you're dealing with candles because it spells. So you're dealing with candles, and you're dealing with different forms such as gemstones, and how to kind of amp it up so that your prayers actually get heard. Right? Because what we want to do is get the information out there quicker to have everything work for us stronger. Sometimes it's not that we're doing prayer and it's not being answered because, I don't know, we didn't do it correctly or nobody heard us. A lot of times it's just because if you didn't add in the correct procedures or techniques, and sometimes that helps put it into a stronger vibration. And with the other one, Angel Spells, a lot of the book has to do with the Enochian occult workbook. Okay, and the Enochian language is basically the alphabet and the language of the angels. So in the book, what I did was I did a lot of meditation, and I came up with direct symbols that are going to help you contact the angelic forces quicker and to call them in. Okay. But, of course, we always do self-defense, psychic self-defense, or some form of prayer for protection first before we call in anything. But it gives you sigils where you can copy them out of the book, carry them with you. You can ask different angels for help in different forms, and they are spells. And it's going to give you, as an example, an angel for healing, for hope, for intensifying different energies. So it pretty much covers everything. And that one I co-authored with William Orabella and Sean Castile. And The Miracle a Minute I co-authored with Arthur Crockett. Wonderful, wonderful people.
Really, with all the type of things that you put out, I mean, you really should be a consultant on Supernatural, because you basically can give them all the information that they need for sigils, for spells, for anything. As long as you don't have to, I don't have to see people slice open their hand for blood, I'd be okay. That'll be fine.
Well, it's funny. We only do positive, and it's funny. I have never written anything negative in a book. Everything I write is positive. Okay, because I really feel that the more positive you are, the better your connection is. Okay, you can have more power on the positive side. Okay, and it's really funny because except for astrology, they can't come up with something in a film I can't help them with. See, I think we should tell them to call me.
All right.
And they should call you for production, because when I was doing my TV shows, you were phenomenal. I just love it because you're really into this and you're knowledgeable and you understand what we're talking about. And when you're doing production and you're doing the technical ed, you're absolutely phenomenal.
Like I said earlier, it's like this is a passion of mine, so I'm absolutely fascinated with it. And if anybody goes to my website, they'll see that I've been researching, and I've been a consummate researcher since I was a youngin'. So I've been looking and reading and experiencing so many different things that, and I just love being able to, express it and let people know what's out there.
I think a lot of it is that it's a way of life. It's not just something we do on the weekend.
Sure, absolutely.
I think it really makes a difference, because it's like we're actually, that saying about walk the talk? I think we're actually doing that all the time.
Yeah, whether people like it or not.
Exactly.
Whether they like it or not. But let's get to our topic for today, because we really have a very interesting one. We're going to be talking or taking a look at fairies and elemental spirits, which, of course, as after speaking with Maria, I learned that fairies are elemental spirits. So, in a way, we're being specific and general at the same time. So, let's start out with, what are fairies? What are elementals? Do they actually exist? Because, so often people think that these are just imaginary stories.
Right.
So, how do you confirm their existence?
Okay, well, first of all, I do psychic readings, but I'm also an occultist, and I'm a shaman. And by the way, I'm an interfaith minister, so it's all positive. But occult just means ancient wisdom, hidden knowledge, as you know. It isn't positive or negative. It's not religion. It's just working with nature. So we do work with them, and they really do exist. And some of us work with the elemental spirits consciously. So as an example, elementals are basically nature spirits. So when people focus on a thought as an example, they can actually form a thought form. And elementals basically can be positive or negative. It's just not one side.
So explain what you mean by that we build these thought forms. So are you saying that we're creating these fairies, these elementals, as we need, or?
Well, actually, not the fairies as much, but we do create some of the elemental spirits. Not all of them, but some of them we've actually created through time. So, as an example, kind of a short story, but as an example, if you have a tribe that lives by a gigantic rock wall, way, way, way back, caveman time, and one day a tidal wave comes and threatens the whole tribe to kill them, but the wave hits the rock wall instead, so now they begin to worship the rock because they think that it actually saved them. So they build a thought form. The more they focus on it, the more they worship it. They're actually building a thought form on the etheric plane, creating an etheric intelligence. So say some time goes by, years go by, and you will be able to see a spirit standing by the rock if you're intuitive or sensitive, and you have no idea what it's connected to. But you'll actually see it because the spirit has been created by that community. So as time goes by and everybody's worshiping this down through generations, it turns out that they don't remember originally why it was worshipped.
Right.
They just keep worshiping it for protection against tidal waves, and eventually they will actually build a thought form that is a form of protection.
and becomes a real entity of itself.
Right, because, with a lot of focus, especially community focus, you have so many people focused on what it is that they actually create it through time on the etheric plane.
Wow.
We have
Absolutely
control.
Fascinating. Yeah, well, if you talk to people, they probably don't think they have control, but, we do have control. We just, sometimes we don't want to actually admit to it, but, hey.
Right, or deal with it.
So, exactly. So tell us, what do these elementals, what are they like? What do they look like? Do they have a general look about them? Who are they? What are they?
Okay, well, basically, elemental spirits, like I said, can be controlled, but they don't all look the same. Okay, so it depends on the situation. So first of all, they can be a guide or a helpmate. Okay, a person can focus on sending an elemental spirit to heal someone. They can also send them, say, to create a hex, but we never work on the negative side. Okay. But again, the nature spirits are neutral. Some of them work, one side or the other. So we only work on the positive side. Okay. And they are basically non-human intelligence on the etheric plane. So they're interdimensional realms, or, where they tend to exist. And they are made up of etheric essence. And there are really different levels of density, for lack of a better term. That's like a table vibrates at a different rate than something moving like a person or a pet. So it's different levels of density and vibration. And they can use material from the physical world and essence from the spirit plane to allow you to see them. So you can see them clairvoyantly, as an example, or at times people can actually see them with physical vision.
Okay. Well, I think, I don't know if it was an angel or fairies, but I remember, I keep on bringing up the same people constantly, but what am I going to do? It's Ed Casey, when he was, a young man, a young boy, I think it was either fairies or it might have been angels, probably. I think it was an angel, had come up to him and had asked him what he wants to do with his life, and he said he wanted to help children. So they were basically trying to, get him on the goal for his mission in life, But I think but I could have sworn I remember him reading something about the fact that he saw fairies as well, or elementals, and he would play with them as a child. So there might have been some part of that too. But I think especially since he was extremely clairvoyant, he obviously had the ability to be able to see them in physical form of some sort.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people actually can't see them physically because they want you to work with them. Okay. And basically their job is to take care of the planet and to help us. So they want us to work with them. And they live in the etheric worlds, but there's also what people don't think about. There's the overworld, where basically you have angelic forces reside, as an example. They have what's called an underworld, where you have negative entities or subhumans. And then, you also have artificial beings or man-made, like the thought forms. You have half human, half man, half spirit elementals. Okay, and basically nature spirits include the fairies. They include, I love the little fairies. They include them where, as an example, it's like there are nature spirits, not just fairies, but there are nature spirits that when you look at a plant, their job is to decompose the plant, and the other elemental spirit's job is to build the plant, or to grow the plant. So when you look at some of the elemental spirits, their jobs are very specific. It's the same like when you look at a bee community, like a beehive, each has their own job. Sure. Yeah. And the funny part is the ones that build the plant especially, some people will look at a plant. It doesn't matter if it's indoors, outdoors, their job is just to build the plant. And sometimes what people will see is little tiny balls of white light or little balls of light around a plant. And they're actually seeing nature spirits. They just don't realize that because it doesn't necessarily have the shape of a person. They're like little balls of light. It's really funny. And sometimes you can see them decompose them. Again, just little balls of light. Okay, and basically there are elemental weapons that people don't realize, and those are used in rituals and ceremonial magic. So when you're calling in an elemental and you're dealing with magic, as an example, you can use it to banish negative energy or negative situations, to call in for positive help, to make your life better. So some of the weapons, as an example, would be, let's see, like wands represent the fire elementals. Cups would represent water elementals, pentacles the earth, dagger air. So when somebody's dealing with magic and you're looking at their altar, you will find that all 4 elements would normally be represented.
All right, so they would have all these items on their altar representing
to represent the elemental spirits.
All the elements.
Okay. And then, you're working with different rituals and different spells. And when we're working positive, of course, we're only calling in for positive help.
Yeah, it reminds me when you were talking about the fact that they had, specific jobs. It reminds me that they sound like they belong to a union. They each have a specific job.
Yeah,
and nobody can touch whatever the other person
does. Picture of them
does.
with the little, strike sign.
Big inflatable
walking up and
rat,
down going, I don't like this plant.
Yeah, you're a rat. So what about fairies and their specific role?
Okay, first of all, in ancient times, they were actually called Fae, F-A-Y, and they still use that term nowadays. What that means is it means enchanted. So a Fae is a nature spirit, and they live on the etheric plane in their own dimension, and they actually look like very small versions of humans. So they want a connection with people. Like I said, they want to work with you. They work with nature's evolution, and they want to be of service to us. So Fae are basically made of energy, and they can form the etheric body. Okay. However, they work with all the elements. They work with earth, air, fire, water, and they really work under the watch of the higher deities like angels. Okay. So the human form also changes. If you're looking at them clairvoyantly, psychically or physically, their form changes according to the geographical location because they want to blend in with mankind. So as an example, if you're in Alaska, they're going to look different to you than if you're, say, in Africa, because they want to look like you so that you're comfortable with them and that they blend in and you're not going, oh, what is that? And the fairies are basically the mediators between angels and us. So also, they're kind of unpredictable, and sometimes they can be a little bit tricky, so they can be fun, and they can move things around sometimes for fun. Like you ever have where your keys are missing, and you know where you put them. And eventually they'll pop up, and it's actually funny because sometimes things kind of move around in my house, and I'm always going, oh, the darn fairies.
Sure.
Now, honestly, right, sometimes it's just that I really forgot, but sometimes it's the fairies. It's easier just to go, oh, it wasn't me.
I was looking at a website today that mentioned that fairies are like part angel and part, well, they use the word demon. I negative entity I'd rather use. But is that true that they sort of possess both attributes, and that's the reason why they're so cagey at times?
No, not really. Like I said, I've been doing this all my life. But everything that I've boss is they're kind of the middleman between angels and man. Okay, so they're passing on information. They're trying to help us. They're really mediators. So they can be on the negative side. It's just like a community of people. Some are positive, some are negative. Some elemental spirits are positive and work the positive side. Some are negative. But they're still not part of one or the other. They're their own energy. Okay, it's more like literally like man, which is a terrible way to put that, but...
Well, since they're able to look, they take on the form and the look of people that are indigenous to those locations. Do we meet them every day and we just don't realize it? Are they walking among us and we just don't know?
Pretty much, right? Well, pretty much, because they're all around us. Elemental spirits are pretty much everywhere. Okay, some people are more tuned into them, some are not, and even if you're tuned into them, that doesn't mean you see them all the time. You have to remember, they're busy doing their own work, so sometimes they're not trying to get our attention. but they are trying to help with the evolution of the planet and mankind. So it's not that they don't try to guide us or to give us information. Okay? It's a matter of when they do, it's free will whether we move on it or not. Because don't forget, in the human form, we all have free will. So we can choose whether we want to move on something and listen or not listen. Yeah.
Right,
so it's always a free will choice.
Right.
But
I understand that this is a way to draw them into, let's say, your home environment, or maybe like some sort of a garden. How would you do that?
Okay. Well, actually, you can. If you find a little spot in your yard, as an example, that you want to set aside just for that purpose, for the fairies, okay, you would take, little stones or small pebbles as an example and build a circle in the name of the fairies. So you're doing that for them to live in that space, and they will take care of it. And basically, you want to put it somewhere where other people are not going to walk over it, touch it, notice it. So you can put it in a little tiny area of your yard, and it doesn't matter if it's a tiny, tiny circle or if it's a gigantic circle. But the issue is that once you make that for the fairies and you tell them this is their realm, you cannot go in the circle ever again, okay? Or they're going to leave. So what's going to happen is they'll protect your home, they'll work with you, they're going to help. Some people claim that their vegetables and their plants look much better after the fairies came, but you can't go to their area. Now, it's really funny because children can go in the area, in the fairy circles. They're called fairy circles. The children can go in there, and animals can go in there without disturbing the fairies. Apparently, they're comfortable with them, but as soon as you have adults, they're done. They actually have fairy circles where they say that it's just ground, like it's just dirt within the circle.
Right.
Nothing's really growing in that. So sometimes they call those fairy circles because the thought behind that, and this is more of a legend, is that the reason that it looks like that is because the fairies like to dance and they keep trampling any vegetation so it can't grow. They need a dancing space.
Oh, interesting.
But some cultures actually look at it like that when they see that.
So you basically need to put up like a no trespass sign for adult humans.
Adults, yeah. Little keep out sign. If you're a child or a pet, you're welcome. If not, don't go in there. It's not like you're going to get hurt. It's just that they're going to leave because now you invaded their space. And you have to make sure a lot of times it's a space that doesn't bother you. And this is why I said put it somewhere like in a corner or somewhere nobody's going to bother it. Because if you put it in the center of your yard, realistically, now you have to mow around it.
Right. That makes sense.
And now you're going to keep people out.
But if you want to have them help you with your garden, I mean, wouldn't that mean that they would have to have a big space to do that?
No, because basically they're made of energy. Okay, so when they're made of energy, they can be tiny, they can be bigger, they can change their shape. Yeah. It's basically an energy form, and they're interdimensional, which means they kind of overlap with our space. So it's not a matter of dimensions being one higher than the other. A lot of dimensions are interconnected with ours. Yeah, like they say that there's a second Earth that's on the spirit plane that overlaps ours. And a lot of the deities and fairies and elemental spirits, they say, live in that because it's a different dimension. But it's the only difference between the different dimensions and ours, the interdimensional areas, is that the vibration frequency is different. It's like if you're looking at a table as an example, the vibration is at a different rate than, say, a plant which moves and, seems to breathe. The only difference between them is the rate of vibration, because even if you think of a table, there's a lot of movement and space between the molecules and on a cellular level. We just don't see it, but it's there.
Right. Very interesting. I just want to let people know that, when our next show comes up, it's going to be obviously in 2015 in January. We wanted to put together a little show where we talk about what's coming up in 2015. So Maria and I will be discussing that on the very next show, just to sort of get the year rolling, so to speak, on what we might be, experiencing for this coming year. So I think that should be a very interesting show. Any last words that you have on this topic? Is there anything else that you might want to mention?
Well, I was just going to say that if you're in an apartment or somewhere where you don't have a yard, you can still do the fairy circle. And one of the best ways, which people really don't think about, is you can actually get a little plant, little potted plant, and put a little tiny circle in there. And then you still have coming to help you. It doesn't have to be that you own property or you're outside. And, if you're renting, you may not want to call the fairies in to help everybody on the planet. But you can make a little space. Even if you're watering the plant, you don't touch the fairy circle. So you want to water around it or have it seep up from the bottom. So the fairy circle can be very, very tiny. But as long as you make it into a circle and you mentally focus on you're giving the space for the fairies to live in, you're actually calling them in. And they're very playful, so if you have keys and things missing something once in a while, just tell them to bring it back.
Well, we're giving them their own little space. The least they can do is just leave our stuff alone. After all, they're not paying the rent. Don't mess with my articles. That's all I can say.
Yeah, right.
But we're coming down to just like the last few minutes. Is there anything that you want to mention, like any upcoming books that perhaps that you have coming out besides the ones that you mentioned earlier that you've authored yourself? Yeah,
well, sometimes what happens is we really can't talk too much about it while we're working on it. But I'm always working on some book because I lost track. My publisher was telling me a wonderful gentleman named Timothy Green Beckley, and by the way, he's a UFO expert, among other things. He's also an author, which makes it great to work with him. Wonderful friend and wonderful publisher. And, it's really funny because we were just talking about how, we're always working on something, on some plan somewhere. And he was pointing out to me that, I have 10 or 12 or something books out and DVDs and things. And one of my students, because I teach classes on the fields, one of my students was pointing out that I have shows on YouTube, including some of the shows that you produced. I didn't know I was on YouTube.
Surprise.
Exactly. So if anybody sees them on YouTube, I just wanted to mention that you were the producer.
Well, if it's probably the Alexandra Psychic Eye shows, most likely.
Yeah, those and then my shows, were on.
Oh, yes, the ones that you,
They have to do really is put my name in, and I do a lot of radio shows. People's and ours, and we try to you and I try to get information out there to people so that they know what's really going on, as opposed to everybody tells you all different things and they either don't have the knowledge or they have the knowledge, they're not in the field. Between you and I, we pretty much combine everything. If anybody ever has a question, as you were saying, they're more than welcome to give us a call on the air, off the air. Whatever helps.
And they could also, go to facebook.com/MQuestMedia. You can leave me a message there, or you can also go to www.mquestmedia.com. There's also a means of contacting me through there also. You can, just to let you know, Reverend Maria's phone number again is 631-559-1248. You can get in touch with her through that, or her website, mariadeandrea.com. So I hope everybody's going to have a wonderful holiday, and don't forget to, drop us a line. Let us know of some topics that perhaps you might want to, hear about, or give us a call. Speak to us. Call us up on the show. In the meantime, Maria, have a nice evening. And,
you too. And like I said, it always seems to go by so fast.
Yes.
Until the next time, and always may God bless you abundantly. And by the way, have everybody have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season.
Yes, yes. So have a nice night, and thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time on Hidden Mysteries.